Okay, so hi everyone. Today I'm going to be presenting Group 4's CS230 project. It's called Clear Consent Analytics with my team members Matthew and Jade. I'm going to go over our long-term vision statement. Clear Consent Analytics is a privacy-first analytics platform designed to change how user data is collected and used in mobile applications. The core idea behind this company is simple. Users should fully understand what data is being collected, why it's being collected, and have real control over whether it happens. The long-term the long-term visions uh, the long-term vision of Clear Consent Analytics is to build a digital environment based on transparency, trust, and user control. Right now, many analytic systems technically follow regulations, but they don't always match what users expect. People often think turning off tracking means everything stops, but that's not always true. The issue was highlighted in the legal case Rodriguez versus Google, where the court pointed out that a reasonable user expects privacy settings to actually stop data collection. The gap between expectation and reality is exactly the problem Clear Consent Analytics is trying to solve. The company's mission is to make sure that no data is being collected without clear informed consent. Users can easily access, understand, and manage their data. Developers can still gain useful insights without violating privacy. So overall, the goal is to balance innovation with ethics. So this is my first OKR, where I created this one. OKR one focuses on building a truly transparent analytics system. The objective is to ensure users clearly understand and control their data, and the key result is that no data is collected after a user opts out, and at least 95% of users understand the consent process. To measure this, I created several metrics. For example, the consent compliance rate checks whether data is only collected when consent is active, and that the target here is 100%, meaning zero violations. Another important Another important metric is the user understanding rate, where users are tested after seeing the consent screen. That they answer questions like what data is collected and when. If they score 80% or higher, they are counted as understanding, and the goal for this is 95%. There's also a user trust score based on surveys asking users if they feel in control and trust the system, and the target for this is 90%. At the same time, we also measure business impact through things like opt-in rates and developer utility. And sorry, I lost my spot because the platform still needs to be useful. So these are the experiments with the questions. So to test these, I designed experiments like simulating 10,000 user sessions to verify no data is collected after opt-out, running user studies with hundreds of participants, and conducting A/B tests comparing clear consent to traditional systems. So this is our impacts and issues as well. But however, there are important ethical issues with this OKR. One major risk is misleading consent. For example, if the company simplifies consent screens to too much to increase opt-in rates, users might not fully understand what they're agreeing to. There's also pressure from developers and advertisers who want more data, which creates a conflict between profit and privacy. When we analyze stakeholders, users face high privacy and rights risk. The company faces high financial and ethical pressure, and developers and advertisers want more data, which can conflict with user control. So to address these risks, clear consent analytics includes several safeguards. First is privacy by design, meaning data is only collected after explicit consent and never after opt-out. Second, all consent screen use are clear, simple language so users of all backgrounds can understand them. Third, the system includes third party audits to verify that it actually follows the policies. And in addition, users have full control. They can view, download, and delete their data at any time. The company also publishes transparency reports and trains employees to prioritize ethical decision making. And now we have OKR 2.
Okay, this is my OKR2. The OKR2 metrics, once again. The objective of OKR2 is achieving good developer adoption. Key result of OKR2 is 500 active developer accounts by month 12, at least 50% informed opt-in rate, and no privacy violations reported in quarterly audits. OKR2 is important for business success and ethics since developers need analytical tools to develop their applications, whereas users have the right to be aware of what data they share with the company. Therefore, clear consent needs to continue its development without making users agree against their will or compromising their privacy. Okay, can you just go to the metrics? Okay, the OKR2 metrics consists of three parts. The first one is active developer account count. The metric indicates the number of developers using the product. In order to acquire 500 accounts within a year, the company needs to secure 42 new accounts per month. The second metric is consent screen readability score. The company would use an experiment involving rating of consent screens provided by 500 users of 20 partner apps. Rating would include criteria such as clarity, fairness, understanding of data use, confidence in consent decision, and readability. The third metric, privacy compliance violation count, will be assessed through quarterly audit results. The company aims at having zero violations, which implies that no data should be collected after opt-out. Okay, ethical issues. The main ethical issue with OKR2 is that clear consent may face the temptation to increase opt-ins or developer adoption by making consent screens less honest or user-friendly. For example, a developer could reduce the size of opt-out buttons, making it hard to see. It would still leave user with a choice, but in practice, users would feel that they have to agree. That kind of situation is somewhat similar to the case of Rodriguez v. Google LLC, where users felt that they had their privacy settings turned off when that was not the case. The company will use the following safeguards to prevent the situation. Consent screens need to contain information in plain language and have both accept and decline buttons of equal size. An automated opt-out verification will ensure that no data is sent to clear consent once user opts out. An ethics advisory board will meet quarterly and include privacy experts. So, can you scroll down to ethical safeguards? Hmm. Yeah, and now we have one objective and key result for OKR3.
So for this OKR, our main objective is to build a privacy-first analytics system. The goal is to give developers useful, high-quality data while still maintaining strong user trust and confidence. To measure that, we're aiming for three things: at least 80% of the developer satisfaction with the data, and 85% or higher user trust ratings, and zero cases of unauthorized data collection. This OKR is really focused on a big issue in tech right now. Companies want more detailed analytics, but users want privacy and control. In a case like Rodriguez versus Google, users thought tracking was turned off when it actually wasn't. So our goal is to avoid that by making sure our data collection is both useful and fully transparent. The main stakeholders here are end users, developers, the company itself, and regulators. End users are the most affected because their personal data and trust are at risk. Developers need accurate data to improve their apps. The company depends on maintaining trust to grow, and regulators make sure everything flows or follows privacy laws. Our target customers are small to mid-sized developers, but their users come from all kinds of backgrounds. Because of that, the system has to be clear and easy to understand, not just for highly technical users. So for the metrics, to see if we're actually achieving this balance between data quality and user trust, we use three main metrics. The first one is going to be developer data utility scores. So the first metric, that's the first one, which we're going to measure how useful the analytics actually are. We're going to test this by having 100 developers use the platform for over 60 days and rate how helpful the data is for decision making and insights. Our goal is to get at least 80% of them to give a score of 8 or higher. The second metric is user trust rating, which focuses on how users feel about their data being handled. We're going to survey 500 users and ask them if they trust the system, feel in control, and understand how the data is used. We're aiming for at least 85% of users to rate it 4 out of 5 or higher. The third metric tracks whether any data is collected without consent. We simulate thousands of users' sessions and run audits to compare consent status with actual data collection. The goal here is simple. We just want zero violations. So overall, success isn't about collecting more data. It's about collecting data responsibly while still making it useful. So for ethical impacts, the main risk with this OKR is that the company might start prioritizing better data over user trust. So in trying to give developers more detailed analytics, the system could slowly expand data collection in ways users don't fully understand. So even if users technically agree, their consent might not actually be informed. This is similar to what happened in the case Rodriguez v. Google, where users believed tracking was turned off, but it wasn't. So overall, the challenge is finding the balance between useful analytics and ethical responsibility. So for ethical safeguards, we put these in place to manage these risks. So first one is data minimization. This means we only collect the data that's actually necessary instead of gathering extra information. Second one is strict consent validation. All the data collection is directly tied to our user permission and monitored in real time, so nothing's collected without approval. Third, we're going to give full transparency. They can view, manage, and delete their data at any time, which helps build trust. And finally, we're going to use independent audits and internal checks to make sure that these systems stay ethical as it grows. So overall, this OKR is about proving that we can provide useful data to developers without sacrificing user trust, and that ethical design can still be effective.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to cultural policy.
All right. So for our cultural policy, clear consent analytics is built around trust, transparency, and respect for users. In an industry where user data is often treated like a product, our goal is to take a different approach by putting users first. Our core values focus on transparency, accountability, fairness, and user autonomy. Transparency means users clearly understand what data is being collected and why. Accountability means we take responsibility for how the data is handled and are willing to correct any mistakes we might make. Fairness means designing systems that are accessible to all users, not just those with strong technical knowledge. And user autonomy means users always have real control over the data, including the ability to opt out or delete it. So our motivation comes from the belief that technology should help people, not take advantage of them. We want to build systems that are clear, respectful, and easy to understand, especially in an area like data privacy where trust is often broken. At the same time, we recognize the risk. One of our biggest concerns is becoming a company that prioritizes profits over ethics. Even small decisions like using misleading design choices can lead to larger ethical issues over time. This is also pressure from developers, advertisers, shareholders, investors who may want more data. But we aim to build a culture where our employees feel comfortable pushing back against that. For our cultural summary, it's just transparency, user-first ethics, trust-driven innovation and accountability, and privacy by design.
Okay, now we're going to be moving on to ethics policy.
Okay. The company's ethics policy states that the principles for operating clear consent as a responsible organization. Firstly, it should ask for clear user consent before collecting any data, as no consent means no data should be collected at all. Secondly, the company needs to respect user privacy rights, and ensure high level of data security. That means only gathering information that is necessary and avoiding excessive collection of potentially valuable information. Thirdly, clear consent should refrain from deception. The company cannot use misleading symbols, hidden settings, vague prompts, or other types of deception. Fourthly, it needs to be transparent towards users. They should be aware of uh, the data type of the type of data gathered, reasons why it is being used, and access permissions to this data. Fifthly, clear consent should be accountable. Any security breaches or mistakes needs to be disclosed, fixed, and explained to the affected users. Lastly, the system needs to be understandable by diverse groups of users, regardless of age, education, language, or technological expertise. Okay, for our ethics board, can you scroll down? There, the ethics board members are Alessandro Acquisiti, Woodrow Hartzog, and Jennifer King. These professionals will help expand our organization. Overall, what do you call it? Our ethics policy sets its limits. As far as clear consent is concerned, success should not depend only on the number of adopted developers. It needs to be measured by user consent and privacy awareness as well. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, and we also have a to-do list that helped us create our document, which is over here. Right now, everything is completed and done except for the YouTube presentation because we're doing it right now. Overall, this is our entire company. Can you go back to the page? Where we value privacy over profit, I guess. We still want some profit, but privacy is like our number one concern. And that's everything. Thank you for listening to our company.